Kids learn about money from their parents. They know whether you tend to save up for fun purchases or pull out the credit card when temptation strikes. Since they're learning from you, talk to your kids about using their money wisely. Start by admitting your own mistakes, talking about your family budget, and discussing the importance of sharing some of your money with causes that are important to you. There are gentle ways to help them become wise stewards of their own money. To learn more, go to stcumoney.org.
Spokane listens when business talks. Welcome to Business Talks, the region's only local business radio talk show with your host, Ryan McNeese. Business Talks is brought to you by STCU. Now, let's get down to business with Business Talks.
Welcome to Business Talks. I'm Ryan McNeese, and here in the studio is Linn Parish from the Business Journal. And we have a lot to talk about. There's a lot going on in Spokane, our region. Thanks for being with us, Linn.
It's my pleasure, Ryan. Anytime.
Well, let's talk about economics. What's happening in Spokane right now?
Let's see. So we're closing out a year that is better than expected in many sectors. We had better job growth than was expected. The real estate market residentially did a better than expected. So going into 2017, we had a pretty strong year.
You know what? I'd love to hear that.
Yeah.
I think a lot of our business owners probably listening today, you know, real estate, for one, that you're mentioning, that our numbers we're seeing some increases. It's such a driver of our economy in so many different ways. What else are you seeing? What are those numbers saying?
Well, can we talk jobs first?
Yeah, let's do it.
So this year, we had seen an increase in the Spokane Metropolitan Statistical Area. We'd seen an increase of 7,500 jobs this year compared to last year. To give that a little bit of context, the previous 2 years, it had been an increase between 4,500 and 5,000.
Okay.
So
it's a significant increase.
Right. And they were expecting it to continue on that clip, around 5,000 jobs created. So it was quite a bit better than they expected. Now, when you talk about the MSA, you're talking about Ponderay and Stevens counties in addition to Spokane, but 90% or a little bit more than 90% of that activity is in Spokane
That's
County.
A good point, Linn. So for that statistic, it is including those additional counties. But, you know, again, from a positive standpoint, whether it includes those counties, let's hope all those counties are lifting up those numbers in a positive way.
Yeah.
But 90%, you would say, of those statistics are probably Spokane County?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Good to know.
And so now if you looked at Spokane and Kootenai County combined, it's a little bit higher rate of growth because the job growth in Kootenai County is a little bit higher than it is in Spokane County. Now they're working with smaller numbers over there,
right?
But it still boosts the overall a little bit more. So.
What do we think that's saying about Kootenai County? What are the sectors that are potentially causing those increases?
Well, they have a really strong construction sector over there, and we do too. But you're
commercial
seeing
or residential?
A little bit of both.
Okay.
A little bit of both. But you have some rather large healthcare projects going on over there right now. I would say it probably tilts a little bit more to the commercial.
Okay.
Especially if you include multifamily in commercial, which.
Well, in healthcare, that's going to be a pretty high dollar construction project. So.
Absolutely.
Okay, that makes some sense.
Now, here in Spokane, what's driving that growth is a category called professional services, which is what you work in, what I work in. It's a broad category. Right. But within that category, there's a subset, accounting, legal, and manufacturing, not manufacturing, research, where you're seeing, which is still broad, but where you're seeing a larger amount of that growth.
Yeah, so, but research, that's interesting. Yeah. And that's in Kootenai County?
No, that's here in Spokane.
Oh, that's in Spokane. Okay.
Yeah. So that would include some of the hiring that we're seeing on the WSU Health Sciences campus.
Right. I actually was just going to mention that. If that's a big push towards what we're seeing, real positive development right there in the U District.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And so that category is accounting for a lot of that growth. And with that comes, generally speaking, higher paying jobs.
Right.
So it's a good thing.
Which then leads to, as you mentioned earlier, that the real estate increases. It kind of comes hand in hand. Is there anything to identify whether some of these increases in jobs are folks coming in from different areas to Spokane, Kootenai, Pend Oreille, et cetera, or are they folks that were already here then acquiring these jobs?
Well, we are seeing in-migration, but I think it's the jobs that are driving the in-migration.
Okay.
And so, and the other thing that you're seeing along those lines is the higher paying jobs in the professional services and related areas are leading to more jobs in the service industry, which stands to reason. People have more discretionary income. They're spending more at restaurants and retail and that sort of thing.
Well, and I certainly think, at least from my perspective, our downtown sector, whether it be the U District or the core of downtown in and around the Davenport Hotel, certainly around this Christmas season, it certainly seems like folks are out, definitely hitting all these restaurants, and there really does look to be a real push to a lot of new restaurants. A pretty good vibe, I think. So
yeah, definitely. Yeah, the restaurant scene could be a subject all on its own. It's really gaining some momentum. But there's an interesting thing with retail in general. This year we have seen a 7% increase in retail sales, taxable retail sales. And those are pretty reliable numbers. But the interesting thing about that is usually retail sales will be correlated with income growth, and they're not right now. So we're seeing 7% increase in retail sales and 4% increase in income growth.
In actual wage growth.
Yeah, which could be concerning if people are spending
potential
beyond their
debt.
means. Yeah, but the one explanation for that might soften that blow a little bit is that some of it involves car sales. So car is a big ticket item that you're not typically paying for
cash
out of pocket.
It's financed generally.
And so with an increase in car sales, that could be part of the explanation for that increase in
I think you're
retail
making a good point, though, Linn, that it's always difficult to sometimes carve out what some of these statistics are saying.
Right.
On the surface, up 7, up 4, up 5. What's making up the mathematics of those statistics, and what are they actually saying about our economic outlook? What else are we seeing here in our community?
Well, do you want to talk about real estate real quick?
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, so when you look at residential real estate home sales, we've seen an increase of just under 10% in number of homes sold.
Okay.
And along with that, we've seen roughly about the same percentage bump in median sale price. So through the first 10 months of this year, the median sale price was right around $195,000 for a home in Spokane County.
And that's up about 10% or just under?
Roughly 10%. A year ago, it was just under $180,000. So median home price.
Right.
So the realtors are projecting that at some point within the first 6 months of next year, that will crest $200,000.
Okay.
So, which is something we did see at the height of the market.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Is that the highest during those peak years? Just over 200.
Yeah, I think it might have gotten around to the 205, 210 area, but it didn't stay there long.
How low did it get?
I don't know.
Yeah, that'd be kind of interesting to be bumping up just under 200. Again, I think that's a good sign.
It is, and another part of the real estate market, another factor there is I'm about a year and a half from buying my next house.
Okay.
And I usually buy right at the zenith, right at the peak. So that's
you want to wait then.
We're not there. Yeah.
Well, you want to wait just right until you get. I think as a deputy editor of the Business Journal, I think you need to do an entire segment on that. That Linn is ready to purchase. Therefore, we are at the peak of the market.
Yeah. So sell now.
Yeah.
Sell now.
Oh my gosh, that's so true. That's great.
Yeah.
Well, what else are you seeing?
Well, so it'll be interesting to see how the home sales market grows over the next year or two. Some worry that we're getting to the end of a cycle of growth. You may have heard that, right? Because we have had sustained, albeit slow growth for quite some time now, longer than most economic cycles. And there are some sectors that are struggling some right now, and
what are a couple of those?
Well, if we're going to stay on real estate, one thing that you see is not a lot of activity in the office market in Spokane. So
commercial office space.
Yeah, and so you see home sales are healthy. We talked last time I was here about apartments,
right?
And
and
so
it feels like driving around, you're seeing a lot of new construction going up for multifamily.
Absolutely, retail's healthy, and industrial, I think, is healthy. So.
And what's interesting is maybe that's somewhat contradictory, because I think we were talking about professional services, accountants, attorneys, research, et cetera, broad market characteristic, but then to have office space down a bit is maybe interesting.
Well, you might, and you'd need someone who knows more about it than I do, but it might suggest a change in simply how much space people need, or how they're using the space.
That's a good point with some of these WeWork type spaces and consolidating, collaborating.
Sure.
You're right. Maybe folks just aren't, as a percentage, jumping to take on 5,000 square foot.
Do people need as much room for servers or office equipment as they once did? I don't think they do necessarily. So, yeah.
Well, so many things going on right now, and you just mentioned an interesting point where you'd indicated this is a longer positive cycle than you usually see. I wonder if you were to actually survey folks on the street right now. I think people still have such a bad taste in their mouth coming off of the recession that we had several years ago, and to then be able to say, as you're indicating, that this is actually a fairly long positive trend right now.
Right.
I wonder if you were actually questioning people, they would realize that this has been pretty good for a while. Absolutely.
I definitely don't think that would be the perception.
Yeah. And right when you said that, it actually struck me as, do people really think it's been as good as it has been?
No, they don't. And
I wonder why.
Well, I think that when you hear something like 4% income growth, I think there's a large percentage of our population who is not seeing a 4% income growth.
Right.
And so take a look at our unemployment rate. It's right around 5.6% right now, which is healthy. In Idaho, it's crazy low. It's 3.8%.
Wow,
so
that is low.
Yeah, and so, but I think there's still people out there who are underemployed, or maybe not working at the same level that they were 10 years ago before the Great Recession. So a lot of the economic indicators have come back. They've exceeded the highs of the pre-recession levels, but I don't know that everybody is feeling that completely
or participating in that.
Absolutely.
Rise. Well, let's come right back after a short break. We're chatting here in the studio with Linn Parish at the Business Journal. Excited to chat a little bit more about some economic indicators.
Yeah, sounds great.
In touch, online all the time. SpokaneTalksOnline.com.
What is a credit union? It's a cooperative, like a food co-op or a housing co-op, but the members share money. Credit unions offer the same services you'll find in a bank, but they're different from banks. First, credit unions are owned by their members, and credit unions are not for profit. Any money the credit union makes goes right back to the members in the form of low fees and good rates. To learn more, you can go to STCU's blog at stcumoney.org.
Snoring can disrupt marriages and cause serious health problems. Call Sleep Better Northwest first, the experts in dental sleep medicine. Their medically approved, custom-fit oral appliances will have both you and your partner sleeping better and being more productive throughout your day. Don't wait. Snoring and sleep apnea can signal potential strokes or heart attacks. For more information, visit needbettersleepnow.com and download our health guide today. Sleep Better Northwest, the experts in dental sleep medicine.
If you need a sign, banner, or business cards for your business, who do you call? Hi, this is Kent Adams.
And Tom MacArthur from Business Talks. Kent and I call Instant Sign Factory for our signs, banners, business cards, and more.
Dave at Instant Sign Factory is our go-to guy for printing, and he always does excellent work for us.
Check them out online. They've got an all-new website, InstantSignFactory.com.
Tell them Kent and Tom from Business Talks sent you. Instant Sign Factory.
Welcome back to Business Talks. I'm Ryan McNeese, and we're here in the studio with Linn Parish from the Business Journal. And just before the break, we were talking about different sectors in our local economy, some up, some down, some in flux. Let's talk a little bit more and maybe drill down into the concept of some of these industries that might be a bit in flux,
Sure.
unknown, if you will.
Yeah, so nobody has a crystal ball, and of course nobody knows what's going to happen, but there are some industries that are a little bit murkier about their future than others. One of the points that Grant Forsyth, Grant is the economist at Vistacorp, and one of the comments that he made to me when we were reporting our economic outlook is that this past presidential election was a lot more based on personality than policy than past presidential elections have been. So we emerged with a victorious candidate, but we aren't all entirely clear on what's going to happen in certain sectors with
actual policies.
Yeah, with what his plans are. Now, the other thing that he said is that with any new president, you're not going to see immediate effects on the economy.
Right.
So
a lag period.
Yeah. So it's going to take in a typical transfer of power, so to speak. It's going to take a year or so before you can really see any sort of effects of that.
Even if decisions were made in the first 100 days, if you will, that you might not see what does that mean.
Yeah, and now but if you see the Affordable Care Act evaporate in the first 100 days, maybe that dynamic will change this year. And healthcare is one area where they really don't know what the future holds because of criticism of the ACA and what might replace it. Yeah. So now in our area, they don't know what they're. And what we're talking about is funding mechanisms, how people are going to be insured or whether they're going to be insured. But in our area, there are so many large projects underway based in part on the current rules that are in place. And they're going to keep trucking with those. So we have big expansions at Kootenai Health, both in Post Falls and Coeur d'Alene. And then you might know that Providence is getting ready to build with a partner a new mental health hospital at the base of the hill where the Fifth and Brown building
sits. That's actually good to hear. I had heard that, but I think I've talked to some other guests that we've had in that the mental health is such a critical issue, I think, here in our region, and so I'm glad to hear that. Yeah,
absolutely. I think, taking a break from business for a minute, I think you are going to be hearing a lot more about mental health and homelessness from our leaders in the coming year or two.
I would agree. I would agree. And, I think you're making a very important point with any election, and specifically the recent presidential election. There is so much in flux. Sometimes that can be viewed as a negative. What's going to happen? Can businesses rely on this regulation or this policy? And oftentimes it can be positive, that there's a bit of a need to relook at current policies and or ways that we all go about wondering why do we do what we do?
Absolutely.
Even in a micro fashion or a microeconomic concept in our own law practice or other businesses I'm involved in. Sometimes when you got to take a close look at why are we doing what we're doing, and maybe you keep doing that, or you make adjustments and move forward. So.
Absolutely. I think people on both sides of the aisle would say that with a few years under our belt, the ACA could use some tweaks.
Yeah.
But what's that going to look like, and how is it going to affect our local providers?
Right.
And that's something they really don't know.
Yeah, and I for one, have said for several years, healthcare in our country, no matter where one is on the political spectrum, is our single most important decision probably in the next couple of years. So
Sure.
to see where that's going to come out, to see the ideas, the potential resolutions on both sides of the aisle is going to be pretty interesting to follow. And I think you make a good point, Lynn, that here in Spokane County, healthcare is such a substantial employer.
Yeah, absolutely.
That it is critically important. We were talking earlier in the show about the U District and what's going on the positive front there, as well as Providence and Deaconess and Valley. So critical issues.
Sure.
You're right. A lot of flux.
Yeah. So we had we are going to publish next week a special edition that we're calling Visions, where we asked about a dozen community leaders and business leaders to write a piece about what they see for Spokane in the next 5 to 10 years. And one of those contributors was Elaine Couture, who is the CEO of Providence Health and heads up all of their operations here. And one of the things she talked about was expansion of ways that people get health care. So they're going to be opening what they call express care retail centers where people can come in and get more routine services through walk-in.
So that's fascinating because the concept would be relevant in any industry is how do you take your product or service and how do you deliver that to the customer? And, again, we look back historically and say, no, this is how you do this. In this particular industry, this is how you serve your customer or client. And sometimes, I think as you're describing, there are different ways to do it. So over that 5 or 10 year perspective outlook, it'll be interesting to see how do we deliver more efficiently healthcare services.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. Elaine's piece was pretty interesting. The other thing she talked about was a program that they're piloting in the Seattle area with in-home visits, basically.
Really?
And so it'll be interesting to see whether that makes its way to the east side of the state and what it looks like.
I mean, that almost appears to me to be almost a throwback, really.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah,
I mean,
definitely.
A doctor
definitely.
showing up at your house with a leather bag. I mean, I'm envisioning some of these old black and white movies.
Yeah.
I wonder how they are going to be able to deliver that efficiently and what the resources are going to be available in terms of actual employees to do that effectively.
Absolutely. And, it's all about expansion of options, though. So in the past, we could either go to the emergency room, maybe in urgent care if the hours were right, or try to get in with our doctor.
Yeah.
And through the years, all of those have become either less attractive or harder to do. And so I think it's just looking at ways to expand those services or those delivery methods, rather.
Yeah, and I think in a lot of the reading that I do that interests me in terms of delivering those services in a wide range of sectors, I think all industries are really having to look closely at that. Even businesses out of New York City, the fashion industry, they've completely redesigned how they try to deliver to their interested customers, where more of an on-demand presentation of the products and services that they have versus presenting those products and services and then 6 months later the person that's interested can buy it. So I think across all different industries, I'll use that word interrupters or interruption, that people are willing to look at these industries and say, is there a different way to do it?
Sure. Another one that is a little murky, not necessarily because of politics, is the finance industry. And what we're looking at is a rising interest rate environment in coming years, which stands to reason. At this point, the banks and credit unions that we talk to aren't too worried about it. They don't think that the rate of increase in interest rates that is being discussed currently would slow
growth or
business.
Well, and of course, my goodness, I mean, rates have been at literally all-time lows for so many years. But I think what you're saying is that the folks you're talking to, the rate of the increases that we might see over the upcoming years is maybe a slow increase that's can be tolerated by business.
Absolutely,
Okay.
and consumers, and it can be. They don't think it's going to slow car loans, for
Right.
example, or mortgages or that sort of thing. Now, every time you bump up the interest rate, it does take a certain number of people out of
the
certain
market.
price ranges and
Yep.
out of the market altogether. But they're not overly worried about it at this point. They've had
Okay.
a pretty good run of growth along with the economy itself. So.
What do you think? I think the luxury of your job is you get to work every day with folks that are very much interested in business and what's going on a day-to-day, week-to-week basis. What are some of the buzz topics that you're hearing about? What are people interested in right now?
Well, a lot of talk when we did our visions section. I think about a third, maybe just under a half of the people touched on the university district. Everybody's really excited about that, and you and I have talked about
Yeah.
that a number of
And it
times
is
in the
exciting.
past. It is, yeah.
Visually,
it is.
it's exciting to see for Spokane.
Yeah, and then we see, and then the other broad subject that came up a lot in those stories is how technology is affecting different sectors. So, Marty Dickinson from Umpqua Bank wrote one about our
Marty's great.
finance industry. Her piece is great too, and she talked about seeing the end of the grandiose bank branches,
Right.
and having people and seeing the role of banks perhaps change to be more advisory first and transactional
Makes
second.
sense.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
What's on the horizon for the journal?
Well, we're closing out a great year. We, like I mentioned, the Visions issue. We also have our book of lists coming out right at the first of the year. If you're a subscriber, you don't have to do anything to get that, but if you're not, you might want to swing by and pick one up. It's a compilation of all of our business lists from the year, and some that we don't publish in the newspaper.
Well, I personally am a subscriber, so I can vouch for the fact I look forward to that showing up because it's a great resource.
Yeah, it is, and a lot of good information in there, whether you're researching or in a sales position or anything like that. Yeah.
Well, Linn, we always appreciate you coming into the studio. I think you're at that point in our industry where you're getting all the information at the Journal, and you guys are doing a great job of dispensing that information to our community, and we look forward to continuing to hear what's on the horizon. Appreciate it, Linn.
Yeah, thanks, Ryan.
Thank you.
Anytime.
Business Talks is produced in Spokane, Washington by SpokaneTalksOnline.com, which is solely responsible for its content. Ask a question, recommend a guest, and hear this program again online anytime at SpokaneTalksOnline.com. Business Talks is brought to you by our friends at STCU. Business Talks wishes you good business and a good day.
If you're like many shoppers, you love to find a deal online. Or you shop online because it's so convenient. And you probably know thieves love to go online too, to try to steal shoppers' credit card information. When you're shopping online, you can start protecting your credit card information by investigating the website you're shopping on. Make sure the online retailer lists a real phone number and a physical address. Read the site's privacy policy and search for reviews and ratings of the retailer. You can read more about safe shopping online at STCU's financial education blog. Go to stcumoney.org.
What is that you're holding? The Spokesman Review? Is it really even a factor in driving customer traffic anymore?
Yeah, sure is. Here, close your eyes and imagine a few people with $5 bills in their hands standing outside the door of your
Okay,
business.
I see them. I like it. People with money. What's your point? $5 isn't that much.
I know, but what if there were 300,000 people in
Yikes,
front of
okay.
your door with $5 bills in their hands?
Well, now you got my attention. That's $1.5 million. 300,000 people. Where'd they come from?
Yeah, that's how many different people read the Spokesman Review every week in print, online, or on their mobile.
Wow, that's impressive.
All you got to do is invite them in. Run some ads.
The Spokesman Review has 300,000 readers a week? That's amazing. I had no idea.
Most people don't. That's why we're running this ad. In print and online, the Spokesman Review delivers customers for your business. For your business. For your business. for your business.